If you think making shrimp Alfredo pasta is hard, I'm about to change your mind. You're gonna need some fettuccine pasta, 2 stems of broccoli, 3 cups of cooked shrimp, shredded mozzarella cheese, some butter, salt, garlic powder, some black pepper, crushed pepper flakes if you like spicy, Cajun seasoning, some heavy cream, olive oil, some lime juice, a big bowl, a strainer, a pair of tongs, a sharp knife, some measuring cups, a big spoon or spatula, a cutting board, a small pan to steam the broccoli, and a bigger pan to cook the pasta. You're gonna set up your pans, big bowl, strainer, and cutting board like this so you can easily reach them. Start by cleaning your broccoli and you're gonna cut them up like this. So you're gonna cut off the ends because they're really hard to chew unless you really want to keep them. By all means, go for it, but I like to get rid of them, and then you're gonna break them down into smaller pieces like this. If you grab a piece and it's too big, you can always use your knife and cut it into smaller pieces. And I always recommend to clean as you cook, so you can throw this in the trash. You're gonna add the pieces that are already cut into the small pan that we're gonna use to steam them. That way you can make some space if you have a small cutting board, or if you don't have a lot of countertop space. That's a good way to make it easier for you. You're going to repeat the same thing with the second broccoli stem, and then you're just going to clean up your space because, again, you don't want a whole mess waiting for you when you're done cooking. And this is what they should look like. You're going to put them on the stove, turn it to low heat, and then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of olive oil. Just make sure to spread it all over, and then we're going to add half a cup of water. We don't want to add too much because we're just steaming them. In the meantime, we're going to cook our pasta. So we're going to turn your stove to high heat because we're going to boil the water. Your pasta box should tell you exactly how much water to add and how long you should cook the pasta for. So make sure that you look at that because every pasta brand is different. And then you're going to add your strainer into the big bowl and put it in the back like that because you want to be able to easily reach it when you're going to strain the pasta. Now we're going to heavily salt the water. I started with half a tablespoon of salt. Then you're going to use your spoon to stir the water. Make sure that the salt dissolve, and I ended up adding another half tablespoon, so just add 1 tablespoon in total. Cover and let it come to a boil. After about 3 to 4 minutes, your broccoli should be ready. You don't want to cook them for too long because they're going to be cooked again later in the pasta sauce, and you don't want them to be all squishy and mushy. So stir them a little bit with the pair of tongs and then turn off the heat. Remove them from the hot burner and then don't put the lid back on. I'm going to increase the heat so the water can boil faster. Once the water comes to a boil, you're going to remove the lid and set it aside, and then we're going to add the whole box of pasta. Remove the broccoli behind it so the steam doesn't cook them more. Use your pair of tongs or a spoon to help the pasta fit into the pan, but don't worry too much about that because as they cook, they'll soften and they'll eventually all fit into the pan. So if you don't want to do that part, that's totally fine, but I don't know, I like to do it. Take a look at the time and the instructions on your pasta box to cook your pasta al dente because that's how you're going to get the best results. About halfway through cooking, make sure you use your pair of tongs to unstuck the pasta together because you don't want that. You don't need to do too much with that. Just make sure that they're not all sticking together. Okay, after waiting as instructed on the box, you're going to lower the heat all the way down. You're going to stir one more time to make sure that the pasta is not all stuck together, and there's no rush with this. You can take your time, well, unless you're hungry. In that case, hurry up and finish up so you can eat. Once you're done doing that, use both hands because that thing's heavy to strain your pasta, and if some water spills on the stove, you can clean that up after. The most important part is to not burn your fingers. And if some of the pasta is stuck to the bottom, you can use your spoon to kind of scrape the bottom of the pan. If you're using a silicone spoon, that's not really going to do it if they're really stuck, so you might have to use a metal spoon like I'm doing here. Set your stove to medium heat. Now we're going to make the pasta sauce. We're going to add 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil. I don't know why I was struggling to say that. And then you're going to measure 2.5 cups of shrimp to add. You're going to make sure to rinse them before you add them to your pan. And you're gonna use your spatula to stir and make sure that all of them get covered with the oil. Cajun seasoning is really good when you're making seafood. I don't have a lot left, so I'm just gonna add whatever is left in the container, but I would say add about half a teaspoon or 1 teaspoon if you have more. Cover and let cook for like 5 minutes. Okay, it's been about 5 minutes and we're gonna stir some more. I know we're stirring a lot, but that's how you distribute flavor in your food. And then we're gonna add 2 tablespoons of butter. If you're a complete beginner, the way you're gonna see the tablespoon, it's right on the packaging. So just cut right where the line is. And then we're gonna add some heavy cream. Make sure you shake it well before you use it. Grab your measuring cup and then we're gonna add, first we're gonna add 1 cup of heavy cream. Then we're gonna use the spoon to stir. I know we're stirring again, but trust the process, okay? And then we're gonna add half a cup of heavy cream. I don't know why my hands are shaking here, but whatever. Then we're gonna grab 1 cup of pasta water and add to our sauce. Be very careful with this part because it's still really hot and I don't want you to burn yourself. So grab it real quick and put it back. At this point, you know the drill, so do I even have to say it? Alright, now we're going to add the broccoli. So take your time with this. Use your spoon, your pair of tongs if you have to. And then, again, we're going to stir and mix the broccoli with the shrimp and the sauce. I know the sauce is looking very bland right now, but don't you worry. We're going to fix that really soon with the seasonings. First, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I like to start with 1 teaspoon because people have different diets. I like to say, hey, start with 1 teaspoon, taste as you go, and then adjust as needed. Because I don't know your diet, I don't know your lifestyle. Some people have high blood pressure, so they can't have a lot of salt. But that's just an example. So this part of the recipe, you take control, and that's how you get better. That's how you build confidence in the kitchen when you don't have to stick to a recipe word for word. And make sure to stir to make sure that salt gets thoroughly distributed. Moving on to black pepper, I added half a teaspoon twice, so just add 1 teaspoon. Or you can add more. After all, it's your food. Then we're adding some garlic powder. This is 1 teaspoon. Again, if you want more, add more. If you cannot tolerate spicy, feel free to skip this part, but if you don't mind a little kick to your food, this is not even that spicy. I personally have a high tolerance, so I can't really speak for everybody. Then we're going to add some lime juice. This is really important because we're cooking broccoli and shrimp, so that's going to help a lot with the taste. And now we're just going to stir to mix everything together. After stirring for a couple minutes, you want to make sure you taste test, because if you're missing any seasonings, that's the part where you're going to add it before we add the pasta. Over time, you get better at recognizing what's missing in your food, but I will say learn to trust your guts in the kitchen, because that's your creativity speaking a lot of times, and with practice, you will get better. You're going to cover it, increase the heat to high, and cook for like 2 to 3 minutes. Now we're going to add some cheese, so remove the lid and use your cup to measure. We're going to add 1 cup of cheese at first. Oh my goodness, I was struggling here to get the cheese out of the bag, but yeah, we figured it out at the end. And then you're going to stir again with the stirring, you know the drill. Time to put everything together. We're almost done, I promise. So the pasta has been sitting there for a while, so you can shake it a little bit. If you feel like it's a little too dry, you can rinse it on the running water, but shaking it usually does the job, so I'm just gonna add it to the sauce. Set your stove to medium heat. Then you're gonna use either the spoon or the tongs to mix everything together really well. Whatever is easier for you, just use that. And if you feel like you can't really get the shrimp or the broccoli at the bottom, use the spoon, because I think that's going to be easier for you. Now we're just gonna sprinkle some more cheese on top of it. We're gonna mix everything again. We're gonna let it cook on medium heat for about 2 minutes, and then we're gonna stir one last time. This is the last time, and then we're gonna turn off the stove and remove it from the heat. Look how creamy and beautiful it came out to be. Sorry, I got a little too excited there. Anyways, we're gonna plate this bad boy, and I hope you enjoy. And tell me in the comments, did I change your mind about shrimp Alfredo pasta being hard to make?